veggies, the fruit, and it holds everything together. Now the carrot, we don't cook the carrot at all. It's just gonna be grated. So we're gonna peel off the outer skin and then we'll grate the carrot. Carrot gets grated up. We also throw Parmesan in there just for a little extra salt flavor because we don't like to overly season or salt up our stuff, right? We wanna watch our sodium intake as much as we can. But a little bit of Parmesan gives a little extra salty flavor without having to overly do it with the salt. Plus we're using a coarse salt. You definitely don't want to use too much of that. So whenever you're shaving down, grate them with your grater on an angle, going down. A lot of people just rub on their grater back and forth. They're wasting energy. Just straight down on an angle. Make sure you keep distance between your hand and the blade. And when you get down to a little bit left, you eat it. Safety first. Nice, bright, fresh orange carrots right in there with the ground meat. Now, we don't want the big hard stems, but a little bit of stems is not gonna hurt. That's actually where a lot of the nutrients are. And because it's gonna get cooked, they'll get tender anyway. So we're just gonna slice up these herbs, chop them up rather. Herbs in. Now, what people hate cutting, onions. We're gonna do a tutorial on this soon. But just simple. In half first through the root. End off, then you peel because that exposes your layers, makes it much easier to just grab it and peel it. I take the skin and the first layer off. Because a lot of times the skin grows right into that first layer of onion and you have parts of your onion that won't soften up when you cook it. And you don't want anybody biting into something that they can't chew as a turn off. Same thing with the other one. Now this first layer is thinner than the other one, but we'll just take that off. Make sure you get the film too, because that'll keep your onion slippery when you're trying to cut it. So you want to get all of that fiber. Now for this, we want the onion to be small because we're gonna make small meatballs, so we don't want the onion cut too big. So we're gonna do cuts in the onion that's very close to each other, just straight through. Make sure you're using a sharp knife. That's gonna help reduce tears. And if your onion is chilled, that also helps reduce tears. The more dull your knife is, the more you will cry. And if your onion's hot, you're gonna cry some more. I'm gonna do 2 cuts this through the onion, straight back towards the root, not too far, because if you hit the root, the onion will come apart, and all your work is gonna be in vain, because it's gonna fall apart while you cut it. Now that we cut small cuts, your onion is just diced up. Nice and easy. Once you learn how to do this technique, you save a ton of time cutting up your onions and a ton of pain because you have way less tears. Like I can feel it a little bit, but not enough that it's gonna make a tear come out of my eyes. Other thing is, when you cut onions, rinse your board off right away because that juice that you see on the board from the onion, that's where the tears come from. There you go, you have a diced onion. Garlic, same thing, chopped down. It could be minced, but you don't have to mince it. As long as it's the same size or smaller than the onion, you're good. And this is gonna go into a pan. I'm gonna turn it on now. let that heat up a little bit. So you just want to bunch this up. Because these pieces are small, you want to bunch it together into a little ball. I know people are probably looking at this like, oh, he's gonna cut himself. His knife is too close to his fingers. I'm not cutting nothing like that. This is the safest way to cut. When your knife is touching your knuckles here and your fingers are tucked back, that's the safest way to cut, because you will never cut yourself that way, because your knuckles are your guide, your fingers are your guide for your knife. So you're actually protecting yourself that way. When you leave space because you think that it's too close, that's when you can't really gauge the distance and you end up snipping yourself. Moral of the story, trust yourself. Now we got kale. Chopped up, it looks like herbs. You never know the difference when you put it in there. Nobody's ever gonna know that this is not herbs just by looking at it. But you add in a bunch of micronutrients. Fresh kale, not sauteed, nice and raw. All right, sea salt, not too much. I like spice, so at your own discretion. I'm doing red pepper flakes. I typically do black pepper and red pepper, or just black pepper, depending on who I'm making it for. I love garlic, so I'll put probably more garlic than anything else. Now that goes good, especially with the sweetness from the apple and the carrots. Not super fresh, but it's a good brand of freshly ground Parmesan. Typically, and we'll probably run this back again, but typically we'll throw in grated Parmesan. So we would grate the apple, we would grate the Parmesan fresh, and that all will go in there as well. Still hasn't taken that long. As you can see, this is something that's quick. Throw the ground meat in the bowl, grate what you need to grate, chop up a couple things, and you're good to go. And while we wait for the onions and stuff, we'll just clean up our area a little bit. Put this stuff away that we don't need. Use silicone, rubber, wood, utensils in your cast iron. Don't sit around scraping it up all day with metal. And make sure you oil your cast iron regularly to keep it fresh so it doesn't rust. These onions already look nice, and that's because we cut them small enough, so they brown up quick. I'm cranking up the heat now for about another minute. I'm putting the heat up to high, just because a little bit of crispiness on the onions is all right by me. If y'all was here, y'all would smell how immaculate just some onions and garlic smell.
Excellent.
Just some onions and garlic. When I'm teaching classes, before we even start putting anything on heat, people come into the rooms and they're like, wow, it smells so amazing. That's just the beauty of fresh ingredients. It smells amazing before you even cook anything, just from chopping it all up. I'm gonna throw this right on top. Because we have a lot of stuff between the meat and the hot onions, we're gonna put it right in. Typically, we'll let it cool off a little bit so it doesn't start to cook the meat prematurely from the heat. Another thing I love to add in here is oregano as well. Fresh oregano. We have some thyme in there. You could play with the herbs. This is just a basic little recipe. You could do variations on it. You could throw a pear in there if you don't want to do apple. You could skip it completely if you want. My suggestion though, especially if you're gonna do turkey sometimes instead of chicken and stuff like that, you wanna definitely put the carrots and the apple or the pear in there. It keeps moisture in there, helps it to retain some juiciness. A lot of times people make chicken breast or things out of chicken breast and they find it to be dry. A lot of times it's overcooking over mixing, which is what I'm trying not to do now, because if you over mix meat, it's going to come out dry. Now I'm going to grab a small bowl. With a little water. Little pinches. Your hand is wet so the meatball won't stick to you and come apart. That's it. Roll it, set it. If you feel like it's starting to stick, you just grab another dab of water. I don't even wait. I usually just get a little bit of water. Now, like I was saying earlier, play with it. Play with the herbs. Do some cilantro. Do different things. Basil, if you like basil. Like I said, we do a lot of baby spinach. You can use baby spinach, baby kale. Sometimes I even, like I said, for collard greens, dependent. I have some clients who are allergic to spinach, allergic to collard greens, allergic to kale. You gotta get creative and be able to still get those greens and nutrients into the food. Also, if you have kids who don't want to eat vegetables, but they'll eat a meatball, grate it up, throw it in there. All they're gonna taste is the seasoning and a little bit of that Parmesan. And they'll probably taste the sweetness from the apple. They're gonna be attracted to these meatballs. Put some sauce on it, they're never gonna know the difference, and they're gonna be eating a good serving of vegetables. It's not a whole lot of carrot per serving, not a whole lot of kale, but you got a good amount of each one. If you got kids, you probably, hopefully you watch this and you take some tips, because I know it's hard sometimes trying to get your kids to eat a variety of things and eat healthy. It's hard for us as parents, period, to try to provide something healthy consistently. That's just the times we live in. You can't blame yourself. It's not easy. But hopefully this stuff will ease it a little bit for you. So then now we made a baker's dozen of meatballs, which is 13. If y'all know what a baker's dozen was. We got 13 meatballs. Out of one small pack of ground chicken, we made this many meatballs. If you made them smaller, you can stretch it even further. And like I said, we didn't add the apple, and we only put a pinch of baby kale. If we would have put the spinach, it would have made a lot more, because typically we'll saute the spinach or the kale. If we have a lot of the baby kale, we'll chop it down or not and saute it with the onions and garlic, and we'll be adding a larger pile of mix into the meat, so that stretches it even more. A lot of times if I put the spinach or kale, the full amount sauteed with the apple, the carrot, and everything else you saw, we can make probably 30 to 40 small meatballs, or this size large. We can do at more than 15, probably up to 20 of these. So you'll get probably another 7 meatballs when you have all of that stuff in there. This is 13. And this is it. Simple as that. It's going right into the oven just like this. Like I said, no extra oils or anything. Non-stick foil, we good to go. Now, start this before you start anything else. Before you make your pasta or whatever you want to eat on the side, you start your meatballs, because then that 15 minutes gives you a timer now. That took about 10 minutes maybe of prepping, maybe 15 minutes. So you figure within 30 minutes, you got your whole dinner made. Pasta takes 10 minutes to boil you, 11, 12 tops, depending on what kind of pasta you use. It seems raw. If you're not doing salad, you're doing some kind of vegetable, do something quick and easy that you can saute or even mix right in with the pasta. Some peas, something like that can saute or steam in like 5 minutes. And you're good to go. Pasta, veggies, and you pull your meat out in 15 minutes, everything is ready. Simple. So we got 15 minutes on the clock. Clean all of this stuff up while we wait. Since I'm not making anything on the side, we're good to go. Stop. Brown on the bottom. The meatball, because it's white meat, is not going to change color that much. So we don't want to overcook it, but we don't want to undercook it. We know the meat goes from pink to white when it's cooked. These tend to cook fast. We only have 15 minutes on there because they cook faster because of the vegetables and stuff inside. It's not just meat all the way through, but we still want to check for doneness, so we're just going to cut it open and make sure that it's done. You see the meat is white all the way through and it's crumbling. That means it's done. And you see all of the fresh veggies still sitting there waiting.
That looks phenomenal.
So now we'll just grab out the whole tray. There's the other dozen.
It smells awesome too.
See, they're all gonna have a little. Now, it's good to see that little bit of juice running out and even starting to cook up and dry a little bit. That's a sign that it's also done. If it's very dry, the juice is all dried up, then it's a sign that it might be overcooked. You don't want to have dry chicken or dry turkey, period. But especially in a meatball. Meatballs, you want it, when you test them, you want them to be juicy and tasty. Now we can just check for the seasoning. Let's see.
Luscious. Look at that.
See the steam and everything coming out. Of course, it's hot though, okay? You can taste the herbs.
It's delicious.
The parsley, the scent of the parsley is so fragrant it goes right through your nasal
Yes.
passages.
Oh my gosh, this is excellent.
I got a little hint of spice here and there from the red pepper flakes.
Excellent.
Parsley. Now you can just imagine after trying it, having a little sauce, having a little more sweetness from the apple in there.
Wow.
It's already juicy, so you get the idea. It's just more juicy with the spinach, with the apple and things like that.
Absolutely.
And you can
banging.
try it, variations on it, whatever you feel like doing. Don't be afraid. You know the basics now. Don't be afraid to mess around with it, throw other things in there. 425, 15 minutes. Check for doneness just to be on the safe side. Grab a meatball out, open it up. The rest you already know. You good? All right, we got some other people that want to taste test.
Even the aftertaste.